Ladies and gentlemen, the wait is agonizing, the anticipation is suffocating, but the payoff appears to be finally, continuously on the horizon. For nearly a full calendar year, a singular question has hung heavy over the Philippine basketball community and the entire landscape of the Japanese B-League. It is a question whispered in forums, debated in comment sections, and analyzed by pundits across Asia. When will the kaiju roam the paint again? When will we see the return of the Philippines' premier basketball export? Well, circle the dates and ready your screens, because the silence that has defined the last 12 months is about to break with a thunderous roar. We are looking at January 3rd, 2026. The Koshiga Alphas versus Osaka Ivesa. This is no longer just a regular season fixture. It has transformed into the potential ground zero for one of the most significant comebacks in recent Asian basketball history. After a devastating ACL injury in early 2025 halted a rising career and stripped Gilas Pilipinas of its anchor, Kai Sotto has been in the shadows, grinding, rebuilding, and waiting. But the reports coming out of the Alphas camp are shifting from cautious optimism to imminent reality. The movement is there, the confidence is back, and the calendar has aligned perfectly with the prognosis. Is this the moment? Is January 3rd the day the giant awakens? Stay tuned, because we are about to break down every single angle of Kai Sotto's road to redemption, the intricate details of his recovery, and why this specific matchup against Osaka might just be the start of an explosion in the new year. This is your deep dive. Let's get into it. Now, to truly understand the magnitude of this upcoming moment, we have to contextualize the timeline. We need to look at exactly where we are, and more importantly, where we have been. The buzz surrounding the Koshiga Alpha schedule has been steadily growing, specifically targeting that first week of the new year. The matchup against Osaka Ivesa on January 3rd has ceased to be about the standings or the playoff picture for a moment. It has become entirely about personnel. It has become about the return of a specific name that has been absent from the box scores for far too long. For the legions of basketball fans, particularly those in the Philippines who treat the sport almost as a religion, the narrative has shifted from if to when, and now, finally to now. This game represents a potential end of silence that lasted almost a year. We have to remember the heartbreak of early 2025. It feels like a lifetime ago now, but recall the shock waves that went through the community when Kai Sotto went down. It wasn't just a minor knock. It was an ACL tear. In the world of sports, those three letters, ACL, are often the most dreaded combination an athlete can hear. For a basketball player, it's a career-altering hurdle. For a 7-footer, it is a mountain to climb that is twice as steep as it is for a guard. That injury didn't just halt his season with the B-League. It completely derailed his international trajectory for the year. We saw Gilas Pilipinas have to navigate major tournaments without their defensive anchor, without that vertical spacing that only Kai provides. It was a massive blow to the national program and a heartbreaking setback for a young player who was just finding his rhythm. And then, silence. For months, the updates were scarce. This was by design. And this is where the story gets incredibly interesting and speaks volumes about the professionalism of Kai's camp and the Koshiga organization. In an era where social media demands constant updates, content, and visibility, Kai Sotto went dark. He went into the lab. The process was described as quiet, but incredibly disciplined. There were no flashy Instagram reels of him doing box jumps 2 months post-op. There were no premature promises of a return date to sell tickets. There was just work, rehab, preparation. The philosophy adopted by his team was clear. Fast is not the goal. Stability is the goal. Longevity is the goal. When you are dealing with a unicorn-type body, a player of his height and mobility, you cannot rush biology. The sheer physics involved in a 7-footer jumping, landing, and changing direction puts immense torque on the knee joints. Rushing a return by even a few weeks could jeopardize the next decade of his career. So they waited. They chose the hard road of patience. According to all recent indications, that patience is about to bear fruit. The word from the inner circles is that his knee has actually been fine for some time now from a structural standpoint. The medical clearance likely happened a while ago, But there's a vast ocean of difference between being medically cleared and being game ready, especially for a return of this magnitude. The camp of Kai and the management of the Alphas made a conscious choice to be very careful. They didn't want him returning at 80%. They didn't want him returning at 90%. They wanted him to return when his body was bulletproof. And that brings us to the present. The January 3rd game against Osaka fits perfectly into the previous medical projections. When the injury first happened in early 2025, the realistic timeline for a full, unrestricted return was always projected to be early 2026. We are exactly on schedule. This isn't a miraculous early return that risks re-injury. This is a calculated, scientifically backed return action. That is why the speculation has heated up so intensely. It's not wishful thinking anymore. It's logical deduction. While we do not have an official press release stating Kai Sotto will start, the breadcrumbs are there. The team dynamics, the condition of the player, and the movement in practice all give a clear signal that the moment is approaching. If he does indeed suit up against Osaka, we need to understand that this will be more than just a regular season basketball game. It will be a symbol. It will be the closing of a painful chapter and the opening of a new one. It will be proof that the waiting game was the right game to play. Let's delve deeper into the nature of this recovery, because it is critical to understanding what version of Kai Sotto we might see. An ACL injury for a big man attacks more than just a ligament. It attacks the balance. It attacks the proprioception, the body's ability to know where it is in space. It attacks confidence. When you spend your whole life trusting your legs to carry you, and one day they fail, rebuilding that trust is a psychological battle as much as a physical one. From the beginning, the decision-makers in Kai's corner set a strict protocol. No shortcuts. Each phase of the rehab had to be mastered before moving to the next. If a specific range of motion wasn't hitting the metrics, they repeated the week. If there was swelling, they waited. This meticulous approach meant that for the first few months, Kai Sotto essentially disappeared from the public eye. To the casual observer, it might have seemed like he was gone, but within the walls of the Koshiga Alpha's training facility, the work was relentless. We're talking about physical therapy sessions that likely lasted hours, focusing on micro movements. We are talking about total body strength rebuilding, adding muscle to support the skeletal structure. We are talking about mobility work to ensure that when he does return, he isn't stiff or robotic. The priority was never immediate court action. It was about restructuring his body mechanics to prevent this from ever happening again. This is the kind of preparation that you never see in a box score. There are no stats for hours spent balancing on a wobble board. But you can feel it when a player steps back onto the court. As we enter the final quarter of 2025, the signs started to trickle out. The phantom began to materialize. Kai was seen becoming more active in team practices. He wasn't just doing solo shooting drills anymore. He was integrating into team concepts. He began participating in controlled training sessions. Then came the contact drills. This is the final boss of rehab. Taking a hit. It's one thing to run and jump when you are alone. It's another thing entirely to jump when a 250-pound opponent is leaning on you. Reports suggest he is looking more comfortable with contact. The hesitation that plagues many returning athletes, that split-second fear before making a move, seems to be fading. He is looking confident in his movements. While they haven't exposed him to full 48-minute intense scrimmage simulations every single day, they have done enough to show that the hardest part of rehab is over. The knee can take it. The body is holding up. So the question shifts from can he play to should he play on January 3rd? The answer seems to be yes. The date against Osaka is ideal. It provides a definitive target. It allows for a specific training block leading up to the game where the intensity can be ramped up to simulate game speed. Furthermore, looking at the schedule, it doesn't thrust him immediately into a meat grinder of back-to-back heavy battles. It allows for a controlled return. For the Koshiga Alphas, this is a massive internal boost. Morally, seeing a teammate fight back from a year-long injury lifts the entire locker room. Strategically, they are getting a 7-foot, 3-game changer back into the rotation right as the season heads toward its critical second half. It adds a dimension to their defense and offense that no other team can replicate. For the Philippines and the Gilas program, this is a signal flare. It means the future is coming back online. Every Filipino basketball fan knows that the national team ceiling is heavily dictated by Kai Sotto's development. His return to professional play in the B-League is the first step toward his return to international duty. But let's manage expectations for a moment. If he steps on the court on January 3rd, do not expect him to play 35 minutes. Do not expect him to drop 30 points immediately. That is not the goal. The goal is to step on the floor, break a sweat, take a bump, jump, land, and walk off healthy. The goal is to get into the flow of the game. Even if he plays 10 minutes or 15 minutes, the victory is in the participation. The matchup against Osaka Vesa has suddenly become the center of the universe for the B-League. The ticket sales, the streaming numbers, the engagement, it's all going to spike. Not because of a rivalry, but because of a narrative. The return of the prodigal son. The end of the wait. It is a logical next step. It is the perfect convergence of timeline, health, and opportunity. The New Year explosion might not be a 50-point game, but the explosion of relief and excitement from the fans will be palpable. Kai Sotto's story in the big leagues is ready to be reopened. The pen is in his hand. The page is turned. And on January 3rd, against Osaka, he might just start writing the best chapter yet. The excitement of the whole basketball community is reaching a fever pitch. As the days tick down, the conversations get hotter. The analysis gets deeper. We are witnessing the calm before the storm. The disciplined silence of 2025 is about to give way to the roar of the crowd in 2026. Kai Sotto is ready. The Alphas are ready. The B-League is ready. The question is, Osaka, are you ready? Because the giant is coming back.